not all spirituality is religious, but all spirituality is real. And the reality I keep getting at, whether it be in sermons or in writing, is to understand that spirituality is beneath even all religions. And we can respect each other for that reason. So some people might call me a heretic about it, but Jesus is my way, but there are other ways as well. And God is a lot bigger than people would like to imagine, I think. I'm Ernest Cockrell, the author of Samson's Shadow. I was born during a hurricane in Port Arthur, Texas, raised in southeastern Oklahoma, which was very segregated, with 3.2 beer, the only beverages possible. And it was quite an understanding of learning about people. And from high school in Idabel, Oklahoma, I went to Oklahoma City University, where with music I was the timpanist in the symphonic band, and had quite an education there in spite of the place. So I went from there to Harvard Divinity School, and there I finally was able to accept religion because of archaeology. I thought what I'd learned was not so good, and finally reality and religion came together as one thing. And so after graduating from there, I went to the Episcopal Divinity School for what I call my delousing, and had a great time there, and then was called to be the curate at Church of the Redeemer in Chestnut Hill. And that was a wonderful time. And in that time, I was ordained an Episcopal priest. After 3 years there, I went to the beautiful seaside village of Marion, Massachusetts, and was there for 25 years. And that's our children were born, and then headed out to California unexpectedly. Didn't ever imagine coming to California, where I became the rector of St. Andrew's Episcopal Church. It was right after I arrived at St. Andrew's, about not even a year, that my bishop in Massachusetts committed suicide. And on the way, on the red eye, I was wondering what were his shadows that I didn't know about, because he was a good friend. And I thought, well, I don't know, but what were yours? So I started writing. I couldn't sleep. So I just started writing. And on the way back, I discovered I'd written 40 pages. And so I said, geez, this is pretty good stuff. And so I decided, okay, I'd like to do something with that. So I used it as a diving board into a novel set in England, where I'd been a vicar for a summer in 1969, and came up with an American vicar and this wonderful English church warden of this small parish just north of London. And the two of them really wrote the book. I simply became the scribe, writing the experiences. And all these things started coming out as to this one item that the church warden, who had everything except one, and he couldn't get over it, and it was driving him crazy. And the suicide of their bishop started him on to this venture to try to figure out. He wanted to go to the vicar, but it scared the heck out of the vicar, because the vicar was afraid he was going to learn stuff he didn't want to know. And that's his boss. But he finally agreed to, they were able to do this through a series of sessions in which they would go into confession. And that protected both of them so that they could reveal what was going on. One of the most amazing parts of the story that happened is that after, and the vicar would take his notes, his diary, it's called them, he would, after each one and the discoveries made, he would write his own confession to God, and those became incredible. So finally, this has an amazing denouement in which, in a post-Easter experience, they go up to Scotland because the church warden's property had a fire, and they were going to send people up. And he said, no, he said, if you'll go with me, I'd like to do that. And of course, it scares the vicar to death, because they're going to be in a situation that he's, oh my God. So anyway, that produces some amazing discoveries, humor, scary stuff that goes on. And the book literally wrote itself. And that's why I am happy to be kind of broadcasting about what this book is about and how it came to be. The main concept came from that suicide. What are a man's shadows that he struggles with? And every man, every woman has a different struggle deep down inside they haven't come to terms with. And so my puzzle there was how to deal with this kind of situation where you really unload to someone you really trust. And it took a lot of sessions for them to trust each other. And so the motivation for writing the book was trying to make sense of what happened to this man and how the two of them start to discover things about themselves through that scenario. And that's how the book really came to be written. Mostly, it's very energizing. I find that if I'm really into it, I call it the zone. And you know when you're in the zone, when 2 or 3 hours pass and you don't realize it. And you know that you've really been into something really, really good. That's what I call the energizing part. So sometimes I'm exhausted from it, but not psychologically. I'm very energized by it and the learning. And some of this, see, I've read this novel, as you can imagine, 1,000 times. But when I read it toward the end, when it was about to be published, and I got to a point and I was tearing up, I said, okay, this is good stuff. This is all right. It has real stuff in it that people can really learn from. There aren't many of them. There are about 4 people that I don't use them, but I used the impact that they had on my life. And the only thing that I can tell you is that I have to be true to them. I have to be real about who they are and what impact they made on life. And if I can be true to them, then I feel I have given them due credit, even though I never use anything, of course. Everything is in confession, so I don't use anything that I really have learned in confession ever. But I do owe these people honesty and reality and being true to them and true to the reality of their lives. Then I'll be all right. There are 4 of them, and I hope they get published too because I think they have merit. But they are not novels. They are characters of the Bible that come alive for people, because usually people, like when I first read the Bible, I realized going over there in 1988 that I'd been reading the Bible in black and white. It's a very colorful place, and the people are real. And so it helped me get in touch with those real characters involved in the story. So I try to bring them to life, that kind of book. And I have several that, like I say, I will hope to get published through the Episcopal Church, but they would be more religious books than would really be published in this kind of setting. Literary success for me would be for a lot of people to read the book and learn from it and have it change their lives. Because the things I deal with in the book, as one person said in review, these are questions that parents should be talking to the kids about, but they never do because it's so personal. So I would hope that the book is read and that it might change and impact some lives. At the end of the story, when I'm myself, I tell people it's the kind of book that a man can give to his son and say, this is not the journey you will take, but it's the kind of journey that all people take as they reach into their lives as to what is the meaning of life and self-image and all these things that you go through. And because the book really deals with from childhood through puberty and into adulthood, it is really scary, some of the things. And people usually don't deal with it because they don't have anyone to tell. In fact, that's one of the words from the thing where the church warden says, I just wish that people had someone that they could tell, because few people do. And life is so personal, and one's body and sexuality, everything is so personal that they often don't deal with it. So I'm hoping that's my idea of success, is not to make a lot of money from it, but for people to read it and let it impact their lives. Actually, it is. I never thought of it that way as I was doing it, except sermons always, of course, are deep in spirituality. But spirituality is far beyond religion. In fact, sometimes I've said I like Jesus a lot more than I like the church, because of people getting all messed up in hierarchy and other things about the church, and they can really be destructive. And so I'm hoping that through these we can get to a deeper spirituality than mere religion, because spirituality, everybody has it, even if they don't want to pay attention to it. Not all spirituality is religious, but all spirituality is real. And the reality I keep getting at, whether it be in sermons or in writing, that's the basic part. And I see this, by the way, as all religions, not just Christianity. In fact, Bishop Tutu used to say, God is not a Christian. And I think that's important for people to understand in terms of accepting other faiths, is to understand that spirituality is beneath even all religions. And we can respect each other for that reason. So some people might call me a heretic about it, but Jesus is my way, but there are other ways as well. And God is a lot bigger than people would like to imagine, I think. I tell people, this universe is at least 19 billion light years across. And to think that we could, have God, in a little box here is just, people, the Bible says we are made in God's image, but really we make God in our image. And we need to understand that and get over it and see spirituality and religion as a big inclusive community, not one in which only one part is right. I hope this gets across, because the church gets taken to task some in the book. It really does, for good reason, I think. So anyway, I'm hoping people will be able to see that the book, even though it deals with all kinds of issues, really is a deeply spiritual book. At the same time, when they tried to categorize it as spirituality, I said, no, that'll turn people off if they think it's, dealing with spirituality. But in fact, underneath all that, it really does. But not in the way people think about religion. Well, I'm retired now, and I've been an Episcopal priest for 54 years. But so I had lots of work. But I also compose music and write musicals, and I'm hopefully they're going to be performed more than they are right now. And so, I write a lot because of sermons, etc., but also because I know that at my age, my longest years are behind me. So my books and the music are my gift to life after I'm gone, that I hope will help people. So my motivation is both writing, composing, working for justice and peace in the world, and I have a great affinity for trying to bring peace to the Middle East and trying to get over some of the awful things that the United States does over there that are not helpful. And so my work is really for wholeness in people's lives and working toward peace with justice around the world. And so I have all that going on all the time. And it makes for an exciting life, but sometimes a very frustrating life too. You know, 100 people can come out and say that was a wonderful sermon, and one person comes out and says, that was terrible. That's the one that sticks. So I try to always balance things with, okay, was I true to the scripture I was dealing with? Was I true to myself? And was I honest with people? And that was my big critique before I allowed the book to be published. You know, was I real and true? If that's the case, no matter what people think, that's okay. Because I'm not saying this is the only way to look at things, but I'm saying this is a way that I perceive something that I think is important. So yeah, I had a good review of Samson's Shadow, and that was good to read. But I expect there will be some who will be offended because it does get down and dirty at times, but to me that's reality too. And especially in areas where a priest isn't supposed to even know about stuff like that, much less talk about it. So, okay, so I ran this through my mind. Is it real and true? That's my only question. And other than that, I don't care about the reviews. Some of the hardest scenes were some of the scenes involving sexuality, especially going through puberty and all. Not because I wasn't sure about it. It was difficult because I kept thinking, people are going to read this, and what are they going to think? And I had to get over that. I had to say, is it real? Is it true? That's all I can do. And otherwise I can't worry about how people are going to respond. That's all I can do. So I can't really worry about the reviews. There will be good, there will be bad, and that's okay too. I do worry, especially about friends reading the book and thinking, oh my God, But I had my son edit the book. He's a very fine writer. And you talk about standing there with your pants down, and for my son to be reading it was a little scary. But at the very end, after he had edited the book, he wrote a page that I'll never forget. It says, "Dad, loved your novel. It's an honor to be your son." So with that, I say, okay, it's ready to go.